What is going on, everybody? Anon here, and I figured I would do this recording and talk Magic because we know everybody's favorite Pokémon is busy watching the State of the Union address and cheering his boy Trump on. I'm kidding. This is a completely anti-political recording. I just thought that was funny, given the fact that that's going on right now. I do want to touch on the video from last night. I know there was a couple folks and some dummy on Twitter. I was like, hey, I know this is wrong because my distributor told me that I'm getting the wave 2 of 3-pack stickers of Ascended Heroes, this week. Well, yes. For those of you who aren't aware, distribution generally gets product 3 to 4 weeks, sometimes even more ahead of time, because they have to check it in. They have to basically prep it to go out. They have to do their internal allocation process, which is basically creating all the different invoices and purchase orders to all of the different accounts that they have. And then they have to ship it out, schedule things to go out in transit, then it hits your dock as a store. You get the product, you have to break it down, and then you either have to ship it out, you take it to your store. There is a multi-week process from start to finish for this stuff to get into the market to have an impact. So the fact that it's hitting today does nothing but make the case that, by around March 20th, it should be out in the market and start churning. And that's absolutely correct. So, little Timmy, I appreciate your comment, but you don't know what you're talking about. So, anyway, getting back to the easiest way to make money in the TCG space. And no, it's not buying slabs in Pokemon. It's not ripping shipping in Pokemon. Buying and holding for 5 years. Sure. But this is actually a much better, much quicker, and much less risky means of doing this. And, I don't really want to give away the keys to the castle. But I'm going to in this instance because since it's Magic, there aren't going to be a whole lot of people that are watching it. So let's have a little bit of fun. Magic the Gathering Commander decks for the last 2 years, probably a little bit longer. These things, and I've said this so many times during my videos, the movie is the same every single time. Now, different scents have different demand, different supply coming into the market. So what I want to talk about tonight is I want to talk about the 6 sets that are most relevant right now. So Edge of Eternities, Aether Drift, at some point they'll be relevant. There'll be decent value on them. Everybody at distribution has them. So as long as everybody at distribution has them, it's kind of dead money. And what I like to do is if I know something's going to be really, really heavily allocated, I try to get as much as I can on that initial launch, because then there's really not a whole lot left at distribution to pick up after the fact. Or on the flip side, something like Bloomburrow and Final Fantasy, once I start to see multiple distributors sell out, then I'll reach out and say, hey, I'm looking for 500, 1,000 units, whatever the number is at that point in time, because you're still able to get a bulk amount. Now, if you wait until everybody has 300 left in a warehouse, you're not going to be able to get enough for it to matter. And the downside of Commander decks, if you're buying them at scale, is they do take up a lot of space compared to booster boxes. But taking up that space is well worthwhile because you're able to churn these much quicker than you can booster boxes, especially play boxes. And really the move with play boxes is to try to buy them near the end of the print line. Now, none of us have any idea what that is right now because we are getting Ixalan, we are getting Waz Veldrain, we're getting Lord of the Rings set boxes. So presumably this is the last reprint, but again, nobody knows if it's 2 years or 3 years. All I can tell you is Hasbro's making shit up as they go along, and there are no rules. So while it is potentially more likely than not that Lord of the Rings is never going to get another reprint for Commander displays, there is also a chance that's far greater than 0 that they do. So let me go through this. And again, no need to touch on Edge of Eternities or Aether Drift because there's a ton out there. So Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings was gone for a couple months. And this was a product that was on shelves for all of 2025, really up until October. And it kind of caught me by surprise because this and Fallout were available. The EV wasn't great, the expected value of the singles, and then all of a sudden it was gone. So again, kind of caught me by surprise. I didn't have either one of these other than, probably 10, 15 copies. So none of these sitting just kind of baking. So Lord of the Rings just hit distribution. And by my best guess, there's about 50,000 units that are going through US distribution. I have a high degree of certainty on 4 of the 5 distributors. I'm pretty sure you can assume the one that I don't know, which is the one that is a little bit of a challenge at the moment, going through their merger, rebrand, whatever you want to call it. So currently on the market, and the data here for Lord of the Rings, it's not super relevant. There's 108 on the market, and a lot of folks have come in and they've started to pre-sell these things. Now, I have my first shipment of them. I got late last week. The rest of the distributors, I think one of them is shipping out today/tomorrow. The other 2 haven't yet allocated. So we'll see. And then, Magazine Exchange, they give you a handful, then they keep everything back for open stock. So it's really, really impossible to get a material amount from Magazine Exchange just because of the way they manage their business, which is really, really great because they always have something if you need it for the store shelves. It's not so great if you want to buy large quantities and sit on them for whatever reason, such as something like this. So the low list is $229. These were as high as $350 like 2 weeks ago. And a lot of these sold. I counted the number of sales in the last 30 days. There have been 151 of these sold in the last 30 days, which is insane. And the expected value, so it's 318 low list for the singles. In fact, I should probably pull up my EV tracker. By the way, the EV tracker is really, really cool. We had that as part of one of the Discord subs, and I'll open that as I'm going through this here. But effectively here, there's 21 days in inventory. Now, again, it's kind of meaningless because product's going to come out. I think the most encouraging thing is you have stores such as Double Infinity who sold them for $169.99, an extra $10 if you want a double box and you don't want the box destroyed. But they sold out almost immediately. I sold them for $160 to our subs, a percentage of what I'm getting. And quite honestly, it's a thank you for the folks that support us here, which is great. The top deck on the market, which I think is oh my God, I don't even know. It's the one with the ISR on it, I believe. 200 in the market. Low list is $111. 154 have sold in the last 30 days. So 41 days of inventory. So there really is a decent amount of this stuff out there. But it kind of remains to be seen what exactly is going to happen. So 50,000 copies is almost nothing. I think Bloomberg was closer to like it is a massive, massive amount. But these 50,000, in my mind, they're going to vaporize immediately. I don't think anybody's going to have them other than, like Magazine Exchange, just because of the way that they manage their inventory. And I really don't see a whole lot of impact on the market here. Lost Caverns of Ixalan, Duskmourn. These two, I kind of look at hand in hand because they both were reprinted in August of last year. They've both been out of distribution for a while. They both have one banger deck. Now, LCI has a couple decks that are really, really good. Duskmourn, the Endless Punishment deck is obviously the banger here. So 100 copies of LCI. These are the displays. We'll get into the individual decks in a second. 174 in the market. Duskmourn only 30 listed, 218. Expected value of Duskmourn is 241 on the cards plus 16, so $4 per commander sample pack. LCI is about $5 per commander sample pack at 215. So the EV of the cards is moving up nicely. 55 sales in the last 30 days, so 55 days of inventory in Ixalan. 36 sold in the last 30 days, so only 25 days of inventory left. So Duskmourn is basically gone. I mean, I could see these shooting up to $300 in the next couple weeks because they just don't exist. So moving to the top deck. So LCI has the Velociraptor deck, and this has gone absolutely nuts. So there's 138 copies in the market. The low list price is $80. It was 70 last week. It's going to be 90 by the weekend. It's just selling through that fast. 315 decks have sold in the last 30 days. So 13 days of inventory on this thing, which is absolutely insane. And at that point, it's going to go parabolic. And once it goes parabolic, people are going to effectively buy the display at 173, rip them open, get back 100, 125 bucks, whatever these are selling at in a month, and then just sell the other decks off. I think Blood Rights, I think, is the other one that's really, really good. That's like a $50 deck, $60 deck, something like that. And you get your money back very, very quickly. Now, Duskmourn is even more interesting. So this is the Endless Punishment deck, and this is a deck that everybody's trying to game the system on Amazon with because they had the wrong picture, I think, at one point in time. This is a couple months ago. But only 71 listed, 125.90 is a low list. 238 have sold in the last 30 days. So there's 9 days of inventory in Endless Punishment, and there's only 30 displays in the market. So Duskmourn is about to go absolutely insane. Now, I'm sure there's going to be more people coming out of the woodwork to sell these. But when I bought these back in August from distribution cost on the 4 deck sets that aren't Universes Beyond, like Lord of the Rings, they're about 110 bucks. So the fact that one deck is already above that, and it's only been 6 months, is absolutely insane. And when you buy these displays from distribution, or you buy them from Forged in Fire or Collector Store, Double Infinity, Stomping Grounds, any one of the big stores that is dumping these to churn, you could have had these probably for $119.99, maybe $124.99. Not that much different than distribution price. And in 6 months, your low list is $220. In another couple weeks, it's going to be closer to $250 because there's just nothing on the market. And the fact that the downside on these, it's virtually nothing because the game's not going to die. People aren't going to all of a sudden hate the decks because the decks are selling because people love playing the decks. And the downside is so minuscule. It's obviously not zero. It's obviously not non-existent, but it's so minuscule because you're buying them at the cost of distribution or a slight markup from that. It is all upside, and we've seen this movie on all these. If you look at the chart for Ixalan or Duskmourn, it goes up and then it falls straight down, and then it goes up, then it goes straight down. It's like that Price is Right game with the yodeler guy that goes up the mountain, and if he goes too far, he just falls off the side. That's what happens when they reprint these decks. So Ixalan, it's going to be 250 bucks probably in a month. Duskmourn is going to be 250, maybe even higher. Tarkir just sold out from PhD. Now, I tend to believe Magazine Exchange has some supply, but they have taken it off their website as of 3 weeks ago. Everybody else is sold out. So 120 on the market, 179 low list. These were about 140 from distribution because remember, it's 5 decks. The EV is 240 plus 12. And there's a lot of single cards that sell very, very well here. 98 sales in the last 30 days. So there's 37 days of inventory, which for the displays, it's reasonably healthy. But then when we look at the top deck here, there's 124. And all 5 of the decks really are selling at the same rate. They're selling quite well. So $55 for the low list, 152 have sold in the last 30 days. So you're 24 days. You're just over 3 weeks of inventory on Tarkir. Tarkir is nowhere on anybody's radar for a reprint anytime soon, which is fascinating because when this came out, the decks went up to like 280. Then they kind of settled in the 230, 240 range for a while. And then they really didn't churn. But all of a sudden, the singles are churning again. And now that it got reprinted, it seems like there's a lot more interest. So if Tarkir is not over $200 by the end of March, $225 by the end of the March, I would be shocked because there's not a whole lot of supply left on these. And like I said, you pick the right set, you have a good idea of how much inventory is coming, how quickly it's going to dry up. You can be very selective in when you load up on this stuff versus when you wait. Bloomburrow and Final Fantasy can still be had at really, really cheap prices. Tarkir, Forged in Fire sold out. And I mean, their price was $135, I think, for a while. Now it's $150, and now it's gone. I mean, that doesn't mean they're not going to load another tranche at $175. You never know. I think they bought 1,400 of them, which is a little bit more than what I bought. Not by much, but it's a great set that nobody paid attention to. And now we have Bloomberg. Low list is 140. 221 on the market. Now these are still available at Magazine Exchange, Universal, and PhD. Southern and GTS are both sold out as far as I can tell. Expected value is 171 plus 32, which is extremely, extremely good given the fact that there's so much of this product on the market. Now, only 100 have sold in the last 30 days, so 66 days of inventory. And then we have the top deck, which isn't the squirrel one anymore. I was surprised when I looked. But 208 on the market, $48, 145 has sold. So 43 days of inventory here. This is going to take a couple months to churn until it really starts to move up. It's just the way it's looking. And Final Fantasy, this one is super, super interesting. So the price on these was in the low 160s forever. And recently it started to move up. And these are in stock with every distributor at the same price. And I think the initial restock price was like 165. Some of the distributors offer deals in the low 150s. I think most of those deals are gone at this point. But 287, again, this is TCG Player. The EV, you're looking at about $227. Not great. Not great, but the market's super saturated. 132 in the last sales in the last 30 days, 65 days of inventory, 208 on the other top deck. I think this is the Shtola deck, 62.93, 157 sales. So 40 days of inventory. Now, again, the Bloomberg and the Final Fantasy are kind of outliers because they're going to be the next to get to this point. Most likely Bloomberg sooner than Final Fantasy. And then Lord of the Rings, it's going to be interesting because the 50,000 they're coming to market with, I'm sure they're holding multiple tens of thousands back on Amazon. I think most of you guys have seen the special for the Commander sample pack and the one deck. The fact that they're advertising the Commander sample pack because it's like $11 is really interesting because it comes with deck anyway. In the sealed deck, I don't think these are going to dump. I think the market's going to kind of stick where it is. But if it dips down to a sub $200, it is a screaming buy because we've seen what the price does. We've seen what the market's chasing. Everybody and their brother is going to have a high degree of certainty that this is going to be the last reprint. I am still on the fence 50-50 because, again, until they say it's out of print, I don't believe them. In fact, I fully anticipate we're going to get Fallout. We're most likely going to get Doctor Who. And I wouldn't be shocked if we get another reprint of Warhammer 40K. I don't know anything about Warhammer. I do know Fallout is scheduled to hit Europe. Doctor Who, I don't know either. So, we'll see what's going on there. But, that the main takeaway here is really, Bloomberg and Final Fantasy are going to move toward where Duskmourn and Tarkir is. And then we have Lord of the Rings, which it's going to hit the market, and it's going to be fascinating to see a set that has a reasonably light print run, something that everybody and their brother wants, to see what happens here. And then Ixalan and Duskmourn and Dragon and Tarkir, these things are just going to continue to start to go parabolic as the supply dries up. So, you're probably too late on Duskmourn. There's still some time on Ixalan. And then there's still some time on Duskmourn to get in. But again, this is the single most, I don't want to say certain or easy, but the upside versus the downside is the best risk reward of any place in the TCG space because you're able to buy in as close to distribution prices anywhere else for a quality product. You can obviously buy Avatar for a while below distribution price. You can buy Spider-Man Play, but those aren't quality products from the standpoint of they're not dried up from distribution, and the odds of them drying up anytime soon, really nothing. So just real quick, this is the expected value to low list. So this is the low list of the singles. So this is not great, because this is taking the low list price divided by expected value. But if we look at the expected value of the cards divided by the distribution price, if you got a distribution, now Lord of the Rings 2.59, LCI over 4, LCI over 2, Duskmourn over 2, Tarkir 1.8. I mean, even Bloomborough 1.8, and Final Fantasy is lagging behind. And then just the reprint date here, February of 26. So Lord of the Rings, nothing since, no time since reprint. LCI, Duskmourn, Bloomborough, Final Fantasy, all 6 months. So we're getting to 2.14 to 2.34 times in 6 months, which is over a 2x, which is absolutely insane on the expected value of the cards if you break singles. And then, Tarkir's only been out for 4 months. It's out of stock and we're at 1.8x, which is absolutely insane. So I want to just share my screen for 1 second. And let me get to the EV calculator, because I just want to walk through this with you guys. It's super, super easy. And I have this set up. There we go. I have this set up here. So this is ev.anontcg.com. If you hit Discord or just go to the website, it'll tell you how to join. It's a 3-day free trial. But if we look at this here, go to pre-constructed decks. And you can have, this is a list of all pre-constructed decks. The name, market price. This is market price. This is low list. So the TCG market price across the set, low list across the set, release date, and then TCG player ID. But you can go to new view and you can create these views. So this is Tarkir. So these are all of your decks for Tarkir. This is the sealed price on TCG player. This is your singles value, your multiplier. So basically the market singles divided by sealed. And then this is versus low. But what I want to do, I want to show you guys this. So here it aggregates everything. So $217 if you buy all the sealed. Obviously, if you're going to buy a sealed display, it's a much better price. But the singles at market value are $319. And the singles at low list are $238, which is an absolute steal if you bought these in the 140s, 150s when they came out and everybody was dumping them. 4 months ago, probably 3 months ago, you can have them there. And then Card Kingdom buy list, 62% of the cards, $192. So you could have bought these for $145, $155. And right now you can sell 62% of the cards. This is the cash buy list from Card Kingdom. And you'd have a $40 profit, and you'd still have the rest of the cards to move. And all you have to do is you just buy them, you sit on them, and you wait for them to dry up. And, quite honestly, if you join the Discord, I tell you how much is left at distro and when it's going to dry up. Ixalan, same thing. $304 at market, $219 low list. Card Kingdom buy list of 60% of the cards, $159. Duskmourn, $243. Now, this does not include the commander sample packs or the collector sample packs. You have to add those on top. But, I mean, Endless Punishment, $158 of EV for the set. That's all a jump scare. Miracle Worker. Oh, let's go back to Ixalan real quick. So here we have Velociraptor. This is fascinating because the sealed deck itself is worth almost the same as the singles, and it's actually worth more than the low list. But then, I mean, you have Blood Rights here at $50, but the singles, the market price is $85, 64 on low list. It's just, there's so much opportunity here. Now let's look at Lorwyn real quick, because this just came out and they dumped a ton of product. So $112 on market, but $81 on the market for low list. That's for 2 decks. So you're still at $162 on decks that were like $123 for distro. That's not bad. Now you don't have the collector sample pack, so that's not super helpful. See, the Card Kingdom buy list is very, very low because, it's new. But ultimately, this is going to dry up in the next month or so, and these are going to start moving. Bloomborough here, 171 on the singles, which is really, really good on low list. Fallout, 281. Lord of the Rings here 276. It looks like some of the singles got undercut. This was a little bit higher earlier. 418 on market. 170 for Card Kingdom. Looks like 47% match. So Card Kingdom's pulled back because they know that the prices are coming down on this as it comes to market. Karlov, this is probably my favorite of all time. The singles prices for market are all over $100 or right around $100 for this set. And people don't pay attention to Murders because of the name. And it has such a negative connotation. And these commander decks are absolute stone cold killers. Pun intended. This is the best opportunity in the collector in the commander market, and nobody's paying attention. Then we got Doctor Who. These things are bangers too. They'll probably need to be reprinted at some point, potentially. Edge of Eternities, again, low list 76. 2 decks, 152. Plus, you have the 2 commander sample packs. I think they're only worth like $3 or $4 each. So, not a whole lot of opportunity here. And then you look at Aether Drift here, $84 for 2 decks. So you're 168 plus, $4 each for the CSP, $3 each. So the Aether Drift price for singles is actually pretty valuable, especially the Living Energy one. And then let's just talk Commander Starter because Rudy had a sale on this tonight. This was actually reprinted with Lord of the Rings. I did my Lord of the Rings sale. I'll have a bunch of this. I haven't really touched it yet, but you're looking at $161 for the singles price at low list, which quite honestly is not that bad. Now this was even cheaper. I think this was like an $80 distribution cost, 85, something like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here with the singles coming to market. Are they going to get crushed? The Commander Starter wasn't the best product, but quite honestly, if they didn't print a lot of it, it might not be terrible. And I'd be lying if I told you that I asked how much they printed. I don't know this one. I obviously know Lord of the Rings much better, but again, this is me handing you guys the keys to the castle. This is the most low risk, high reward opportunity in the TCG space there is. All you have to do is buy it when it's cheap, sit on it, and when it dries up from distribution, it's the same movie every time. Now, some of them go up a little bit quicker than others, but it's always the same. And you can do this if you're selling on TCG Player because there's more than enough movement here to eat fees, and you can still do multiple double digit, sometimes even triple digit returns on this stuff. So anyway, guys, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Hopefully you guys enjoyed a little bit of the humor here, and join the Discord. Feel free. We can talk about this a little bit more. So see you guys. Have a good night.